Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. This is episode 26 and I am your host Ben. Joining me today is Richard.
Hello.
And Rob.
Hello.
And we are coming to you recorded but also live on Twitch and YouTube as we continue this crazy live experiment. Things are going well. We've actually got some people watching today, so hello to you guys out there in the interwebs, which is really lovely. We're going to do some news today. We've got a Gamepass club to go over. We're going to talk about Spiritfarer. We've got a few games we've been playing, not a lot. We, however, have been watching lots of things. So I think let's talk about some of the stuff we've been watching this week. Richard tells me, we had this before the show recording, he's been watching the Mighty Ducks movies. Is this for the first time, Richard?
Yeah, first time. You know, I've been on this kick of trying to hit all of the classic movies.
Yeah.
Before I die. It's getting to that sort of age where I'm thinking there's really stuff I should fit in before it's too late. Mighty Ducks fits that criteria. According to you, they are the classic series of
really good sports movies.
Ice hockey sports movies, yes. So I've watched nearly all three of those. I'm just about to finish off the third one. I probably can guess where it's going, having seen the first two.
Pretty sure.
Everything's just going to work out because that's how movies tend to go.
These ones do. But they do go round a sort of circuitous, convoluted route to get there, don't they? Like, with really forced character arcs.
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean,
how many heel turns does Emilio Estevez need?
It's a sports film, so they generally stick to a formula. Like, it's about being an underdog, losing, coming back, winning, having a moment, having a teachable lesson in which we all become better for the sake of it, you know? So I think if you enjoy that, you will enjoy the Mighty Ducks. I mean, the thing is, I'm up to date with the TV show, which is just... I'm loving it. I think it's really enjoyable.
Is that the same sort of vibe, or have they changed it?
Well, because it's long format, it is different. Yeah. It is a different... I don't want to spoil it for you, but there is a different sort of setup around it, and it's been very enjoyable. What's so impressive about it is that they've got a bunch of kid actors that are very good and are not super annoying. They're way more likable and sort of like believable than the ones in the movies, which are just caricatures. These feel much more like real people, real young people. And no, there's one kid who's the podcast kid, so obviously we relate. And he has just got the most incredible comedic timing and delivery. He is fantastic. He's a really talented young actor, and I think he's going to go on to do big things. Really, really good. But yeah, I've been watching just loads of stuff. So I watched that. I'm up to date on Falcon and Winter Soldier. Are you guys?
I've not seen the episode that aired yesterday.
No.
I've heard interesting things. A lot of it was fine generally. This one, it's sort of building up to the finale next week. That saddens me with that already.
That sums up my feelings of the whole show so far. I think I'm whelmed, not under, not over. I'm just whelmed. I'm in the middle. It's fine. It's not particularly brilliant or particularly bad. It's watchable. It feels very much like an Ant-Man, movie. Iron Man 2. Like,
did you
not the
see
best,
the
but still
mid-credits?
watchable. Sorry?
Did you see the mid-credit scene?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen what that is. That intrigues me.
It doesn't for me, because I know the character, I know the story arc, I know exactly where this is going. If you know the comics, there's really only one direction Walker can go, and he's going that way. So
it's still good to see that play out in this medium instead of in comics.
It's okay.
You get to,
It's not.
That's why I'm fine with them doing and treading these storylines that they've treaded already, because you get to see it happen real time, and there's slight different takes and alterations on it.
The thing for me is that they're going for a certain new Captain America, without spoilers, right? And it's not the best one. Like, it's far from the best one, but it's the only direction they can go in 2021, which is understandable, but I'm a bit disappointed they've skipped, I think, some of the best characterization from the comics for the sake of getting to this end point. And the point is that the end point of the comics is earned. We've kind of not... This 5 episodes hasn't earned it in my mind for that character, but I'll be very curious to see how they tie this all up in one episode. That episode's going to have to do a lot of lifting. That 6th episode is going to have to do a lot of lifting to get everything where it makes sense. But trying to talk about this without spoiling it is quite hard. But yeah,
I'll be watching it this afternoon.
Cool.
So,
in addition, I've just got a list here. Have you guys heard of Wellington Paranormal?
No.
Right, you've heard of, I know Richard's heard of What We Do in the Shadows, though, yeah?
Yes.
Right, so you remember the original film, right? In that film, there's 2 police officers that show up, and they're completely feckless and don't notice anything and are deadpan, and it's hilarious. Well, this is the spin-off TV show with those 2 actors in it about being basically like they're almost like New Zealand police seem to be kind of like British police, like very just workhorses. There's no guns. They very rarely even use tasers, but they're kind of like village cops, almost like the cops from Hot Fuzz, right? And that's probably the easiest thing to equate to. And it's just them dealing with paranormal, weird stuff. And they are constantly like just downplay it. It's incredibly funny. They're feckless in the extreme, and it's just goofy as all hell, but the tone of it is amazing. In New Zealand, this is a huge hit. They've had 3 seasons already of this, and they're kind of become like national icons. They've even done like an edutainment thing for COVID with these characters in character, like to try and teach people back. They're like huge over there, but we've only just got the first season. I'm halfway through it, and if you like goofy comedy, but like a little bit paranormal, a little bit supernatural, very funny. Really, really recommend that as well. Really,
Who was the director of that? Was it?
It was Taika Waititi, yeah.
Yeah.
From
so
Thor.
He's done this as well, has he?
Yeah, so him and Jermaine Clements, obviously Flight of the Conchords connection strong with all of this. They've done some of the writing and directing, most of it for the first season. I don't know how much more going on, but yeah, their tone is very, very set. It's interesting, weirdly though, because What We Do in the Shadows TV show isn't connected to this, and obviously they've also developed they're developing the werewolves spin-off as well. And I'm not sure if that's happened yet or not, but they were working on that. But I love it. The whole universe that they've created with that is absolutely hilarious, and just I piss myself laughing watching that. So good. You guys got anything before I mention the final thing? Before we get into games and news and stuff?
Oh, what have I been watching? I watched the first episode of Invincible.
Oh yes, finally! What did you think of that ending?
I saw that coming a mile off.
Yeah, but did you see how violent it would be coming off a mile off? That's what set the tone. I mean, that's what sets Invincible apart. Is that obviously that character beat's happening. That's the whole thrust of the show. But the commitment to how they do it is brilliant.
It's meant to be a parody of like DC stuff, right?
It kind of starts that way to a degree, but
that whole team is like, well, that's the Flash, that's Batman, that's Wonder Woman.
But the whole point is that yes, but they are dealt with the way they are to set things apart straight away and to be sort of like this isn't going to be about that.
It's clearly going to have the end result of him taking on his dad, and well, I'm trying to not do spoilers now. Actually, in hindsight, him trying the main character focus. Trying to carve his own path and uncover said mystery as...
I just watched your cat, like, descend from the top of that door. That was incredible.
Yes, that's what he does.
Okay. Carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I'm correctly predicting the story at all, but that's very much what it's seeming like to me, that the audience is going to have both sides of that story, where you're going to see the characters deal with one side at a time. Which is interesting.
Yeah,
but...
yes and no. You think it's going to do something in it, and it will surprise you. That's all I can tell you, because the way they play out a lot of those beats is not obvious at all. And so far, I have no reason to believe it won't follow the comic completely, because after 4 episodes, it has been a almost shot-for-shot remake of the comic, the first graphic novel, the first 6 issues, and I think they've done it incredibly well. It took me a while to get used to the voice acting, because it is obviously had very different voices in mind when I was reading it, but J.K. Simmons is fantastic as Omni-Man, absolutely kills it. He's just such a good actor. It's great to see him in more stuff as well at the moment. He's popping up all over the place, and he's just brilliant.
I do have a slight disassociation that I can't envision him doing any voice acting that's not for Tenzin from the Avatar Legend of Korra series, because he voiced Airbender Grandmaster in that, and I just keep seeing him and go, your animation is drawn wrong, you should have red robes, what are you doing? Hello, Arthur.
It's coming up for a visit time. No, but check it out, Richard, when you get a chance. It's really good. I think it's only 6 episodes anyway, and we're up to 5 already, so it's nearly the whole thing on Amazon already.
I'd recommend it. It hasn't grabbed me, but it hasn't put me off either.
You need to
I'm very middle of the road. I think I do need to give like a couple more
Just the level of violence, though, in that show for an animation, it's just... because it's like you don't see it with superheroes a lot. These guys have got these mad powers, and then there are obviously the ones that are Omega level for all intents and purposes, the Superman style characters, which are even more powerful than all the others. Yeah, in these fights, they are going to be literally tearing people apart and like ripping them apart and like shredding them with their hands, and you see that in Invincible, and it's insane. It's mind-blowingly good. And I'm so glad they didn't shy away from that. Finally, the thing I wanted to mention was this big new movie that's got all the Oscar nominations, the BAFTA nominations, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but if you guys aren't aware of Promising Young Women, it's a hard watch. It's an incredibly well made, and I think for you two, like myself, trying to be a bit socially conscious, as it were, of the world around us, it's an important film. I think the ending is a bit odd. Like, not the best ending, but it's very funny, very, very dark. It's kind of... the term I heard was bubblegum noir, which I think kind of nails it in a review I read of it. And, it's produced by Margot Robbie, so that should give you an idea of the kind of tone and stuff that you're going to get from it. But put it this way, I watched it with my wife. She's normally terrible for looking at her phone, not really paying full attention, but she sat at the edge of her seat, completely 100% attention to this movie. It's very, very good. I can see why it's getting a lot of award buzz. I'd be curious to see what you guys think. So it's finally out in the UK on Sky Original. Sadly, that's kind of the only way I think you can see it at the moment, or buy it, I guess, maybe, I don't know. But if you can get a chance to watch it, check it out. Oh, and finally, let's bring it back to video games. Have you guys watched any Mythic Quest yet?
You've recommended this to me before, and I haven't located it as of yet to give it a watch, because I know it's got Abed Nadir from Community in it, which means I want to see it.
So it's a workplace comedy set in a game development studio that's kind of Ubisoft reminiscent, I would say. It's made by the guys that made Sunny in Philadelphia. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but with a much lighter tone than that. That is myopically dark, especially in the later seasons. This is much, much lighter. They did... What's really set them apart? First season is very, very good, very funny. Lockdown happened. They did a lockdown remote episode, and they've just done a new episode special, which is all about the first day back in the workplace. And I have to say, the way these guys handled lockdown and the way they're handling what it's like to return to work in a post-COVID world is so well written and so well judged. I was super impressed. Now, Ashley Birch is one of the lead characters in this, Tiny Tina, for those who have listened to the show. I don't love Tiny Tina. I've got to give her props. First of all, she's in this show and she's very good. Second of all, she wrote this episode, the whole thing. She's a very good writer. I've got to give her props. Like this observation of what it's like to go back to work, what it's like. They do like a LARPing thing to try and make everybody want to come back, and they have this whole event. It's based around an in-game event thing, and it's just fun and sweet and very well written, very entertaining special. If the new season starts, I think next month as well, season 2. And I can't recommend it enough. It's a very, very good show, Mythic Quest. Yeah, really, really good. So check that out. You got anything, Richard, before we go into the news?
I don't think I've seen anything else. It's been a busy week, so Mighty Ducks has been my limit, but I'm sure I'll catch up on more stuff next week.
Hello, Cameron. Cameron, who's not with us this week on the show, is watching. Definitely not while he's at work. Just wanted to point that out. Definitely not while he's at work. Just let's make that clear. He's definitely not watching or listening to the show while at work. He wouldn't do that.
It's definitely not the case we'd expect it streamed on any of his shop TVs at all.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. So let's
definitely.
Keep saying it. It somehow gets funnier every time we say it. I don't know how that works. Should we?
Is this going to be the Definitely Not podcast? It's just every news story. Definitely not.
To answer your question, is this going to be the Definitely Not podcast? Definitely not. So let's get into the news after our protracted little discussion about what I've mostly been watching as an excuse as to why I've not been playing as many games as I probably should be. But let's get into the news. The first news stories we have are all Mass Effect related. This is the Hype Mass Effect Legendary Edition part of the podcast. I think we had a part of that last week as well. But every little bit that comes out gets me even more excited. It's nearly here, just a month to go, Rob. And we got some details of the photo mode, which It's nice that they've included it. I'm looking forward to taking lots of cool pictures in the Mass Effect universe because there's so many cool sci-fi elements there of that. The buildings, the vehicles, the ships. I'm definitely going to get some screenshots for background purposes and for on the back of my Xbox and stuff like that. Why not? No, Mass Effect is the greatest for that sort of stuff. I've got art books, dedicated to Mass Effect behind me. So yeah, why not make some art of my own? I can't wait.
It's a good feature, but for me personally, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I really
looking for the story and the gameplay to be back rather than rather than a photo mode. It's nice that they've added it because some people will get a lot of value from that. So that's a really good feature. Nicely done, well thought. Just not for me. That's all. So good on them.
I think that the game looks better, but does it look that much better that it warrants a photo mode? It's not blow away spectacular, is it?
Yeah, but it's not about warranting a photo mode, is it? It's about them being aware that their fan base creates a lot of fan art. There's huge amounts of artistic interpretation of Mass Effect Online. Why not enable that in game?
I suppose so. I think I'm just thinking of it from the perspective that photo modes are normally to show off graphical prowess, and it's not really there. So
I think what they've done to the first game is remarkable. So the other thing they brought out was this little video around the same time as they announced the game had gone gold, which should mean no more delays, but that happened with Cyberpunk, so I can't be sure, but fingers crossed. They put this video out where they did a bunch of comparison stuff, and really it is really impressive the work that they put into that first game to modernize it and bring it up to the 2 and 3 point. We talked about this last week, Rob, where originally I was like, no, they're not going to do shit, they'll just put a coat paint on it. They've done shit. They've done shit.
No, I've seen the comparisons and it looks good. But I suppose what I'm saying is the original holds up better than I thought it would. It still looks all right, doesn't it?
Well, that's the beauty of good art design, isn't it? Sorry,
yeah, at the time it was really good. Mm-hmm. It was amazing graphics and stuff at the time. So I think without it going into a completely different engine, I think they've probably ended up just sharpening what they can in there with now improved techniques and stuff. So I don't think it's going to be like an 8K qualifying game or anything like that. But I think they've done what they can to improve textures and improve that resolution and that sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy that they've done as much work as they have. So it'll be fun playing Mass Effect 1 for the first time this way.
I can't wait.
Because I've not played anyone.
You've never played one, have you? And it's been years since I went through one. I don't think I went. Have I gone through one on the Xbox One generation? I'm not sure I have, even with back and pat. So I'm really. I mean, it's still my favorite narratively. So I can't wait to do that again. It's just. I'm super excited about that. Richard, do you want to talk to us about Activision and its current round of litigation? Because they love the odd legal issue, does Activision?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. So Activision are currently in legal wrangles with an indie dev who has a game by the name of Warzone. Your first instinct would be incorrect here, because I know what you're thinking. Activision have got all heavy-handed. They're the big megalithic publisher, stamping their rights all over the little man. And that's not the case. So Warzone.com is where you can find a small sort of board game type experience, similar to Risk, by an indie dev. And that came out a fair while ago, it's a couple of years ago. And what's happened since is that they've filed for a trademark, but only after Activision's Call of Duty Warzone has come out. And they've taken action against Activision for the name and asked Activision to cease and desist use of that name, which is insane when you think about it. They were there first, but whether there's any real likelihood of those games being confused between each other, I'm not convinced.
Well, Richard, I want to make it clear that Randy doesn't agree with you. So Randy Ficker here on his GoFundMe page for "Please give me money to fight this pointless legal battle,"
really?
Which isn't the name of his GoFundMe page, but it should be. He said, and I quote: "I might point out I don't know what Randy sounds like, but I'm going to do a voice."
Oh God!
I won't do a voice. I won't do it. People tell me about how their Xbox can't connect, or how their PS4 got hacked. How they wish they could carry teammates, etc. My game isn't even on Xbox or PS4. I had to send them a reply each time. Warzone and Call of Duty Warzone are different games. You should contact Activision. You know, and he's just tired. He's just it wasn't a voice. That was just trying to.
He sounds?
I was just trying to tell you how sad Randy is. He's not got the time for this, guys. He's got to make another board game type video game. You know, he's a busy man. He can't send 1 or 2 extra emails a week at the most. I mean, that's just crazy.
So, just to confirm the timeline, Call of Duty Warzone came out after this board game had been a thing for a while.
It's a video game. That's a lot like a board game, just to be clear. But yes,
the board game came out 2017. Activision's Warzone came out 2020, didn't it?
Has he trademarked the word Warzone?
Well, good luck doing that, because it's
exactly
it's not a sort of unique word, is it? It's a term that gets used in multiple video games and multiple just like. A war zone is where a war happens. I mean, like, what do you...
He may have, like, a conditional trademark like Warzone referring to gaming franchises or something like that. That could be a thing he has. I doubt it.
Well, the funny thing is that although his game came out 2017, he didn't file his trademark for it until October 2020. And Activision's trademark was filed in June 2020.
It was a counterclaim to defend against. You know, I understand why he's done that. You know, we should not belittle the fact that often the case is with this, that the big horrible company comes in and is trying to, you know, take these things away from the smaller developers or whatever, and often they win because it's not worth fighting. It's not, the indie developer doesn't have the resources here, and so I understand, but I also believe that Activision has offered a settlement situation for this. So I mean,
turned down.
Which was declined by Randy. So I don't know, man. I mean, good luck to him in a way. He did kind of come up with it first, maybe not. I imagine there are other games with that name or that name involved with it. So it's a strange one. It's a silly one. It's a kind of redundant one. I just think it's funny, but I can see his point, right? The fact that, you know, Activision is saying that nobody's going to confuse the two. From personal experience, I have seen confusion around naming when it's even less obvious. I won't go into any more detail on that, but it definitely happens. And the fact that he's got the domain warzone.com, of course people that are playing Activision's Call of Duty Warzone are going to assume that's related. Of course they are. So you can't really argue that point. So he is almost certainly getting those emails. You know, I don't doubt that for a second. I don't know how many, but yeah, he'll definitely be getting it. If you think about how many people play Warzone, how many stupid kids, right? It's obviously going to happen.
The Risk-style virtual board game sounds a lot more fun than Call of Duty Warzone to me.
Rob's now heard about this, and, you know, he's going to go and start playing this game. So, Randy, I think
you're joking about this. I'm serious. I probably will.
This has worked out for Randy. You've got another player, mate. Well done. Good job. Good job, Randy. Let's move on to the next news story. Richard, I know you played some Oxen Free.
I did.
What did you think of that?
Yeah. Well, I've still got it on my hard drive because I meant to go back and finish it again because I did enjoy going through it, and there's multiple routes through that game. So here's a good excuse. The sequel's coming out. So Oxen Free 2 is launching later this year on Switch and other things, and is set 5 years after the first game. Which came out 5 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when Oxen Free came out. It was kind of around that time of the conversational walking sim type game, usually subverting your expectation that there would be something supernatural involved. Though in Oxen Free, it does turn out it is genuinely supernatural. But what really stood out for Oxen Free for me was the very organic dialogue system. You know, being able to interrupt, and the system would interact with that and understand if you were cutting people off. It was really clever how they did the dialogue in Oxen Free.
Exactly, yeah. It wasn't just what you were choosing to say, it's when you were choosing to say it, or maybe not choosing to say anything at all. All of it made a difference.
So Night School Studio went on to make After Party, which I've had sat on my Xbox for a really, really long time, from Gamepass, and I've still not played it, and I do need to check it out because I did enjoy Oxen Free and what they did with that. Even if I didn't love the ending and some of the supernatural stuff and the backtracking you had to do in that game, there was a lot of good in there as well. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for this sequel. Yeah, I'm curious to see where they go with it.
Is Oxen Free on Game Pass?
No, I don't think it is.
I'm honestly not sure.
Whenever it's on sale, it's like £2 less, maybe.
I might give it a go.
I think it's been and gone on Game Pass, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, look out for a sale. I'm sure there will be one.
I wouldn't. Yeah. It's not a Rob game, but it's a good one that isn't, sort of thing. I think it's fair. I think you might be surprised. It's it's
I've heard good things about Oxen Free.
Teens
yeah. So I'd be curious. This is on the assumption I ever get my hands back because Arthur. So I do kind of want to give it a go. Just to at least try. It's why I would prefer a Game Pass option, because then it's free.
I want to say it was on Game Pass, or I'm sure, or Games with Gold, or something. I'm sure it must have been. I'm sure it was. And like I said, After Party is. So that's the one they did after, which is all about a drinking game which lands two people in hell, and they have to then get pissed to get out of hell. Sort of have drinking games with demons. So sounds fun. In news that only Ben cares about, so I'll make this brief. F1 2021 has had its release date announced of July the 16th. Details on its new big story mode has also been confirmed and sort of teased, and it sounds like they're gonna Breaking Point it's called, and it sounds like it's gonna try and put a narrative in a racing game. Not the first time I've seen that attempted. I don't remember it ever properly working, so curious to see if they pull that one off. But no, I'm very, very excited about this. I love my Formula 1 games. I'm also really interested to see what it's going to be like under EA now that Codemasters have been purchased and this is being published by EA, and if that's going to make big changes. There's no word of a ultimate team in this year's iteration, though I know that'll come next year. And the other weird thing is, for this season, obviously I'm hoping to finish this podcast by 1 o'clock live on Saturday so that I can go and watch qualifying live at Imola. But that's interestingly and relevant to mention here, because Imola isn't included in this game at launch, because the 3 tracks that were added to the season late haven't been finished and won't be at launch, which is going to be really annoying if you want to play the season mode as soon as it comes out, because you're going to be missing races. So I'm they're going to add it in later. They're going to be a free DLC offering, but kind of bummed about that. But yeah, it's going to have X enhancements for the first time, all the bells and whistles. So I'm looking forward to it. I've already pre-ordered it. I know I want this day one, so I've got the Ultimate Edition of whatever it is, the Deluxe Edition, pre-ordered, ready to go. I'm hyped.
You should stream some day one.
I will. I can guarantee it. I love these games. I absolutely love Formula 1 games. Love them. Love them. Love them. Love them. But that's enough of that. I will move us on to the next story, in which only Richard will be slightly more interested, but we won't spend much time on this. But Rob again will probably just roll his eyes. But we've had the first teaser for WWE 2K22 that was shown at WrestleMania. And it looks like we're going to be getting an entirely new engine. Now, famously, they skipped a year. 2K21 was jumped over because of the unbelievably negative reception of 2K20, which was completely justified. That game was a hot mess of a dumpster fire, and to the point where they didn't even send review codes out. It was terrible. It was truly awful.
Cyberpunk levels of terrible.
Yes, like really
widespread
really
refund levels.
Yeah,
of
it was unplayable basically. But 2K22 looks like we've got a new engine. Nice new little video showing off in-game footage, which looks really nice, featuring our famous Lucha Libre. What's his fucking name? I've forgotten his name.
I don't know, but it's
619. Help me out here, Richard. 619. Rey Mysterio. There we go. Rey Mysterio.
You're trying to build up to the name, and you're trying to buy yourself time. Our favourite this. Our favourite that. This person. Shit. What's the name?
Let me just vamp this until I can come up with the answer. Yeah, while thinking furiously. I got there though, and Cesaro as well. Cesaro and Rey Mysterio. This has come off the hot back of the announcement where WWE is releasing more and more of its talent at the moment as they get gobbled up by AEW in the ratings. I'm a big AEW fan. I have fallen off WWE hard. AEW are making a video game, which I'm far more excited about when we're talking about wrestling video games than this one. And I just saw Samoa Joe's been released by WWE, so AEW, get that guy. He's great. Samoa Joe's amazing. Richard even knows how good Samoa Joe is. So like,
Samoa Joe's great.
He's so good. But that's it. We won't talk about wrestling anymore. We used to talk about wrestling a lot more when me and Richard were big into the WWE. But we'll step off because
I've got to tell you though, Ben. Even when I was fully into WWE, I was never into the games. So when you say I'll be slightly interested in that game, not so much.
Not so much.
Well,
I mean, I'm only
tag
curious.
in. Sorry.
Go on. Make your poorly informed wrestling joke, Rob. Go for it. Go on.
I'll say, should we tag into the next news story about Epic securing an extra $1 billion of funding?
You gotta give him that. It's not bad.
Sure.
It's like the only thing I know about wrestling.
Hot tag coming in hard here. Rob, go on then. Tell us about this story.
So, Epic has recently secured, funnily enough, $1 billion of extra funding because, it was struggling so much. The interesting thing is it's got $200 million from Sony. So they seem to be throwing their hat into the ring quite significantly. I've seen in the week that we can now get hold of Aloy in Fortnite from the Horizon Zero Dawn series, which is quite nice. In a press release, Epic listed more than a dozen non-gaming companies which had collectively pumped in that $1 billion. So you've got quite a lot of different companies trying to throw their sort of hats into this ring. Epic is now worth apparently more than $28.5 billion.
So I think it's really interesting. Nuts. This story I've linked to in the show notes as well from Eurogamer. They also quote them in helping its long-term vision for the metaverse, right? And then Eurogamer also mentions a metaverse similar to Ready Player One, much like we've been talking about for some time now around Fortnite. This is clearly the thing, right? If you're talking about huge amounts of investment from outside companies that aren't even gaming related because they see the future of Fortnite and what that might become being this kind of one-stop location for anything interactive. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be gaming in that regard, does it? Think of all the cross-promotional marketing opportunities you could have in a world like that. Monetize it up the wazoo.
Kratos swinging a Tide Pod axe. That's not a world I want to live in.
But first he gets out of his Audi prior to swinging his Tide Pod axe.
Of course, yes.
So it's like, you've only, there is so much horrible, cynical potential for money and growth and exploitation of young people. And you know it's where it's going. This is why Epic have been operating their store, for example, at a huge loss with all the free games, because they're using this as market share. They're using it as mind share. They don't need to worry about making money because it's the future value of the company, like you said, over 28 billion. That's just going to keep going up. I won't be surprised when that hits 100 billion, and I imagine it won't be long until it does.
I was going to say probably scarily quickly that we're going to get that earnings call. 102 billion. We're going to quietly sneak our way into this one, but it's scary.
It's scary, but it's not. I mean, isn't this is success? I mean, you can't really blame them for it, can you? I mean, they've leveraged Fortnite in an incredible way.
If we're going to end up in an advertising like oasis, that sounds like hell. If that's what the money is going to be used for, and it's just going to be advertisements and marketing shoved down your throat, that sounds a nightmare. Get back to a game that has just a fun engine. I still miss the idea of the Fortnite where it was like wave based and you had to like defend against like AI enemies that came to you. That would lasted for about 20 minutes.
Oh, it's still there, I think, but yeah.
No, I think they cut it.
Did they get rid of it entirely? I thought there was like a side thing.
I think there was a side thing for a while, and they just got rid of it because nobody played it because they were too busy getting like.
So famously in Ready Player One, Gregarious Visions, the creator of the Oasis in the book and the film, kept the advertising and the horrible monetization out. It was the IOI evil villains, the Sixers, that wanted to bring it in, which is why they wanted to take over the Oasis and win the Easter egg challenge to actually take over. So it's almost like they're skipping the nice side of this and could just potentially go straight to the evil guys from winning.
I was about to say, so the good guys haven't set this up. The bad guys are just going, well, that was a good idea. Shit.
Yeah, they read that book and they just took all the negatives and was like, yeah, that's what we want to do. Let's roll with that.
These guys have made all the money. They must be doing well.
Epic must be doing something right. You can't fault them for this, right? There were loads of flash in the pan successes around Battle Royale, right? PUBG, loads of them hit big, faded away. Hit big, faded away. Fortnite hasn't done that. They have somehow stayed relevant. They have somehow stayed on brand. The kids are still loving it. The kids are still playing it. And if anything, it's growing. So it's like you've got to give them credit for that, haven't you? I mean, they've turned their studio, they've turned their engine manufacturing developer into the home of Fortnite, and they've geared up, staffed up, pushed this product, kept supporting it, kept evolving it, kept developing it. And now they bought a mall to turn it into their headquarters recently, and they're just coming up on 30 billion, and they're absolutely slaying, and it's like good on them for that, surely.
Now buying a mall as their HQ makes more sense because they're just going to have a different office or a different shop for each company that's invested in them. So you can have a little Microsoft store in there for Master Chief, a little Sony store for Kratos. Just have that. That makes more sense.
But if let's go down the Bond villain route. They'll also have the nuclear missile silo in the center, which will open up in the roof and fire off and kill anybody that fights them. So.
Oh, in the shape of a giant llama or something, that's the thing. Like the mouth will open and the missiles will fire.
How long until we see real battle buses flying across the sky?
Yeah, that's what it'll be. It'll be a battle bus that takes off, which is actually a nuke.
So this bit coming in for Cameron now, and to kind of answer the question that he asked about, is Cyberpunk a fully functional game? Definitely not. Well, it doesn't need to be, it turns out, because CD Projekt Red just posted their best financial results ever for the obviously the financial year that ended at the end of March. This is off the back of what can only be described as a disastrous release for Cyberpunk, and yet they've still raked in all the cash, and really, that hasn't mattered at all. No. Off the back of the strength of the pre-orders, or the back of the strength of the hype, they made an absolute slaying. What it also tells me, especially as they opened up so many refund avenues for people, a lot of people did not go for that, right? So a lot of people have held onto the game under the understanding that they will continue to support it and it will be improved over time because of the goodwill that they have sort of developed at CD Projekt Red over the many years with Witcher and the GOG storefront and stuff like that. People have sort of willingly kept their investment in the game. I think that's really interesting, and I think, in another related story, they also said, we're not going to drop this, we're going to keep supporting it, we're not going to suddenly leave Cyberpunk on the shelf, we are going to make sure this gets where we want it to be. Good, because you've got all these people's money, and it's like, it feels almost like what they've done is kickstart the development on this, and this is early access. That's kind of where we're at with Cyberpunk, isn't it?
This sort of trend, this worries me because they released a poor excuse for a game. Like on release day, it was barely functioning on most high-end spec PCs. On some consoles, it just didn't function. So people still went for it, still bought it, and it's given them their best results ever. Where's the incentive for them to try any sort of QA in the future for Witcher 4? Why should they care? Because they know people are going to buy it anyway.
I mean, if you're smart, you just release it as early access. You just put any game out like that now, early access, 2 years before the proper release date, and that way you give yourself the roadmap, and you also give yourself the excuse that nobody can really argue with. I mean, that's what Cyberpunk has become, like with that roadmap that is now stretched throughout the entirety of this year before we even see sort of the X enhancements and the PS5 enhancements, which I'll be surprised if we even get this year. At this point, they've just said this game you've just paid full price for an early access title. That's all you've done. I mean, that's where we're at, isn't it? That's the reality of it. And the fact is that so many of these people have kept their money in the game, which is, I think that really speaks to the faith people have in CD Projekt Red, who have earned that. But at the end of the day, they've also sold people a turkey. And there seems to be no ramifications for that. And I think you are exactly correct what you said. There's no way around that. I liked the parts of the game I played in spite of the issues, but you can't argue with the issues. They are there. What are your thoughts, Rich?
I'm one of those people that bought it at launch and didn't get my money back. I'm yet to play it beyond the first hour.
Wow.
I don't feel like I'm hard done to for that. I suppose the reality is I bought it for next gen and we haven't had the next gen version. So part of my thinking was, if it's going to be a free upgrade, it's probably worth buying the Xbox One version which is likely to be cheaper than when it comes out for next-gen consoles. I don't know. Maybe that's not going to turn out to be the case, but I don't feel like I've been stiffed on it because I only paid about 30 odd quid. So yeah, I'm quite happy to wait till the next gen versions are out, and it's kind of not really happened for me yet. I don't really feel like it's out, even though it's on my hard drive. I could play it. It hasn't crossed my mind to even look at it or even keep up to date with all of the news on patches, because I'm simply waiting for the next gen version whenever that appears. It might be next year. Not really bothered. I'll just wait until it's in its prime condition to play, and that's when I'll jump in. So, fine.
So that you've literally kickstarted this game. Like you that's not even early access. That's like I'm paying in advance for the development of the game. Like that is literally what you've done, which is fascinating. And I bet you were far from alone in that.
Oh,
like, almost
100%.
certainly. Like. Yeah, far from alone. So I think that's how they've got away with that. I don't know.
I'm waiting until it either goes on Game Pass or is 20 quid in a bargain bin, which will happen because that's got to the point where The Witcher 3's at now. That's 15, 20 quid.
Just FYI, you still can't buy this on the digital PlayStation Store, which is mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that mad?
Yeah.
Still can't.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't expect that it would be so broken when it came out. I thought I'd be able to try it out and see what the game was about and enjoy it, at least in a sort of preview form before I binned it off, waiting for next gen. So it's disappointing that it wasn't in a state that I could enjoy it. But yeah, at the same time, it still fits with my plans to wait and play it in its better form anyway.
Okay. There'll be more Cyberpunk news probably next week. So let's move on.
I can hear Cam twitching already.
A quick little note on Ubisoft has launched an online channel called GTV in the UK. It's been around for about a year in France, and it's live action and gameplay and panel shows and discussion stuff. And sure, why not? I mean, I do think it's weird that gamers aren't better served for that kind of mainstream programming, just as a whole. Also, I guess it's because it's so diverse. It's like, well, what do you cover? Because there's almost too many choices and too many diverse fan groups and stuff. And like, where do you go? Do you talk about Destiny? Do you talk about Minecraft? Do you talk about? I mean, there's lots of huge groups of people, but they're all very disparate, so it's hard to do.
This is where something like Twitch just takes over, because you have those little microcosm communities are centered around the personalities. Because the people who tend to cover games and do well on Twitch are specifically that demographic. They tend to have very strong personalities or unique viewpoints, which people tend to gravitate towards.
For good and bad.
For good and bad, yes. And I follow Datto, for example, because he does Destiny gaming and stuff like that. And I like his style, so I have gravitated towards him more than other Destiny Twitch streamers and stuff like that. And that's the same for a lot of different other game communities as well. So I think broadcasting for gaming, you have to strike that balance, because there'll be some people who go, yeah, let's watch an in-depth documentary about the Assassin's Creed games. Yeah, I'm up for that 100%. And half your audience will just turn around and go, what? But Fortnite. So it's a very tricky balance. I think having a Freeview level of channels would be a better structure, but you need those first steps to see whether something would be worth that investment.
So let me read from their press release here. It will feature a wide range of original programming inspired not only by Ubisoft, but by the video game industry at large, going behind the scenes on how games are created and celebrating the people who make and play them, as well as the biggest events in the gaming calendar. I mean, you really couldn't get more general than that, could you? I mean, that is so general. And then I like this bit where they talk about celebrities, right? I want to know how many names you recognize here. There's one here that is a video game journalist that I actually really rate, and that's Ellie Gibson. But Nicola Adams,
no relation.
No, fair enough. Nicola Adams, don't know who that is. Rufus Hound, I know who that is. I do know who Rufus Hound is.
He's funny. I like him.
He is good. Azim Chowdhury. Don't know who that is. And then Ellie Gibson is mentioned as well. And Ellie Gibson is from Eurogamer and was also on Go 8-Bit, which was the Dara O'Brien video game show as well. She's really good. She knows her games. So
Nicola Adams, OBE, is a British former professional boxer.
Oh.
Oh yeah,
known for her gaming. Cool. Like what?
She apparently retired with an undefeated record. So Google tells me, because I know sports.
Good. All I know is one of our all I can say about boxing right now is recently AEW signed one of our previous Olympic medal winning boxers who is now going to be a pro wrestler for them. So yeah, that's all I can tell you about boxing. We have a friend who knows a lot more about boxing, so when we do the boxing spin-off podcast, we'll make sure we get him involved. How's that sound, Rob? Okay, let's move on from the boxing. But that, generalized streaming content. I mean, isn't it just like, oh yeah, who isn't doing that? But it does. I'm not sure what the point of it is, but cool.
As long as there's good discussion, strong personalities, and interesting content, this will probably do middlingly well. I doubt it's going to be phenomenal.
It's the sort of thing that should have come out with the Xbox One launch, isn't it? That whole thing around Xbox branching out into entertainment, all directions. Yeah, it's a weird time to do it now. I can't really see why after that failed attempt.
Well, all I can think of is it's got a lot to do with Ubisoft building back up their public image, I would have thought, and rebuilding their brand to a degree, because they took so many hits in the last 2 years due to all the, not even allegations, it's just true issues, around sexual misconduct and all of that within their studios. After always putting those labels up on the beginning of their games, it's like, guys, you let us down, man.
Maybe you should have read your own labels.
You were the good guys, Ubisoft. You let us down. Let's move on to the kind of... This is a difficult story because it's quite nebulous. There's a lot going on right now with the Sony development stuff in first party. But basically, Naughty Dog tried to make a couple of games and failed. They've had a lot of challenges with... trying to split the studio and focus development down, especially in the year we've had. It's been difficult. But this is where... we were talking about the Last of Us remake last week. This is sort of related to that news story and that's sort of what came out of it. But it's a wider story around a shift in focus in PlayStation, as has been reported by Jason Schreier, into less experimental game design and more of a focus on their successful blockbuster IPs and the relevant developers. So obviously Sony has a great deal of developers around the world, like way more than you probably realize, really small teams all over the planet basically. And they're looking to sort of homogenize and direct their output more into the sort of established winners that they've developed in the last few years, such as the Naughty Dog output, Last of Us and Uncharted, the Spider-Man games, the Horizon stuff. They really want to build that franchise out. And they look, kind of the way I describe it is like they're consolidating their portfolio. They're looking at, because obviously one of the great examples was Days Gone, right? So Days Gone was a moderate success, but they were working on a sequel that's got canned, and now that developer is being kind of redistributed into other IP and projects. It does seem like the exact opposite to the Xbox way of doing it, which is all about diversifying the portfolio and buying all of these disparate studios and creating a wide range of experiences, that everything from small indie stuff all the way through to big AAA, whereas Sony seem to be focusing down really hard internally on the AAA.
I may have a guess why.
Sure.
Their AAAs tend to be the things that lure people away from Xbox. So why they're doubling down, because everything you said in the list of games was a PS exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're going, oh, you want us for your exclusives? We'll just make them more. That's what they're doing.
I think the concern for me when you hear about this is it's not so much making exclusives. Of course, all this Xbox stuff is going to be exclusive as well when it starts coming out. However, it's about limiting the creative output of very creative people, what's going to happen, and what the revolt that's being described by people such as Schreier is that this talent is leaving Sony. This talent will be setting up indie development. They will be leaving.
Will they go?
Sorry?
Where will they go? Into Microsoft's welcoming wallet.
Well, now the more rumors from Microsoft about courting Kojima for his next projects and stuff like that. Now that he's out of the Konami brand, and there's a lot of that going on. There's talk about at the moment of Square Enix being acquired by someone, of Konami being acquired by someone. There's a lot going on.
They turned around and outright, flatly said, "Rumors are false."
They always will, though, won't they? Until there's a dotted line signed. I mean, I think it makes sense that people like Square Enix right now, considering the nightmare time they just had with Marvel's Avengers. Good success with Outriders to a degree, though it's actually having a really rocky post-launch. But that game was a bigger hit than anybody expected, but not on the level of what they wanted from Marvel's Avengers. Like that tanked that company hard. So I imagine they would be looking at revenue streams, potential buyouts and deals, and who knows. But the whole industry. This is what we were talking about, which is what we talk about every week, isn't it? Everything is really in flux right now. COVID has really shaken things up. Some delays are shaking things up. I think it's going to be a very unpredictable 12 to 18 months. We're going to see a lot of shifts in what we have grown accustomed to in the previous generation. It's going to be exciting.
I think Rob's right, though. Like, in terms of Sony's strategy, you can understand why individual devs might feel it's not where they want to go. But for Sony itself, they've established that high watermark of quality with their exclusives, and that's
Absolutely.
something they'll want to double down on, because it is the differentiator with Microsoft now. They might have a huge portfolio of developers under their wing, but they have yet to prove that they can publish a really top tier AAA experience. I mean, Gears 5 maybe is the closest that they've come, but everything else feels a step below, doesn't it? Some of the
I think
I'd probably give the Forza series a prop against Gran Turismo.
Yeah,
I'd probably say they sort of
that's a
edge
good
out.
example, actually.
But you are fundamentally correct. It's Xbox struggles a bit with its exclusives because their ethos isn't you only play here. Their ethos is play wherever the hell you want.
I think it's gonna. I mean, give it 12, 18 months, and we'll be singing a different tune. If Starfield's out, there's other stuff from those other studios. What was it? Elden Ring, the one that's is that from actually? I forget. There was another big fantasy from Obsidian. I can't remember what it was called.
Elden Ring is from Software.
Who was the Obsidian? What was the Obsidian one? I can't remember, but they're making a big fantasy RPG as well.
Yeah,
we've obviously got Fable coming as well. So there are a lot of Xbox stuff and a lot we don't know about as well. Oh, don't forget the Perfect Dark one. That was remember that? That was like, what the hell was that video at E3? But there's stuff in the next 12 to 18, COVID permitting and pandemic permitting, I think will change the perception of first party releases from Xbox. Let's see. It's gonna be exciting. Let's see. One final story then that I want Richard to cover.
Back, I wanted to chuck a final grenade in on that comment from Naughty Dog. Where do you think that came from? Is that a dig to CD Projekt Red? Because they were only talking a couple of weeks ago about the comment about not branching out into multi-tier development and focusing on one AAA product at a time. Is that a bit of a dig at CD Projekt?
However, but CD Projekt didn't even announce that until Cyberpunk was basically out the door anyway. So I don't think. I don't know. I mean, it's a different way of thinking about it, I guess. If Naughty Dog want to focus down on one at a time, but I think the whole point of this story is that Sony wants to double down on the Naughty Dog library of IP. They know that's what people want. They want Uncharted. They want Last of Us. So I don't think we've seen the end of Uncharted. I think they're gonna, especially around they're looking at the movie coming out. I think they're gonna want more Uncharted. Oh, we've lost Richard. I hope he's okay. Hope he'll come back in a minute, but he's gone no cam, no mic. Maybe he's having somebody pop in or something like that.
I'm back. I was just blowing my nose.
Oh, okay. You turn the camera off to blow your nose. Okay, interesting.
Well, I don't want people to see that.
That's fair enough. Just green stuff everywhere.
Explosion.
But no, I suspect PlayStation would love nothing more than an Uncharted something to come out around the time of that movie. I would make total sense for them from a cross-media perspective, wouldn't it? And then whatever that might be, we've already had a remastered collection of the first 3 games, so maybe they remake something in there as well. Maybe they remake the second one because it's the best one. I don't know, but I think there's it's a big shake-up. This year is going to be very unpredictable. I can't wait. They're starting to firm up dates, aren't they? Some Ubisoft has confirmed dates for a E3 type timing show. Microsoft has got one coming. We're going to start to get all that. It's coming into that time of year. What's going to be in them? Like, what are they going to even be able to talk about? I mean, I'm assuming Far Cry 6 for Ubisoft will be the next thing. But every other story we get is, here's another delay. Here's another delay. Here's another delay. So yeah, who knows? Richard, tell us about the PS5 update that supposedly has made the thing so much better.
I really wish I could give you some experience on this, because as regular viewers and listeners will know, I'm the only one lucky enough on this team to have a PS5 so far. I've got the update, and it's the first major update for the PS5 since launch. But I can't give you much of an insight into how good or bad or indifferent it is, really. So the major feature is that you can now download PS5 titles to an external hard drive that was previously limited to PS4 titles only. Now, because I don't own a PS5 game yet, I can't tell you how well this works. What I can tell you is that there have been previous issues with hard drive compatibility, and I haven't experienced this yet because I've been really careful about how I use my PS5. But apparently, if you leave your PS5 in rest mode or standby mode, it can permanently disable use of a hard drive that has PS4 games on it. So I haven't put my PS5 in standby mode yet. I'm not sure if this update fixes it. I'm not going to be the one to test it. I'll wait till someone else has told me it's fixed.
First thing, so where are your expandable NVMe drives? Yep, they've still not been... That's not even enabled yet. Can't do that yet. Secondly, you can put PS5 games on an external drive. You can't play them from the external drive. You can only use it as storage for them. So that's worth noting. But that's the same as Xbox One. You can keep them on the drives, externals, but when you hit play, it's like, oh, we need to transfer to internal. So that's fine. But yeah, I mean, that OS was so underbaked. Oh my god.
It is, yeah. And having not confirmed that it doesn't kill your hard... No, I don't think it kills hard drives. It just, from what I've heard reports of, it just stops them being functional with that particular console. So you could use them on something else, but once it's sort of killed that drive for your PS5, you'll never be able to format it to a workable state with that PS5 again.
Oh, that's crazy. It's like it sends a message to Sony and a man comes around with a hammer and a nail. It's like, bam! You ain't using that no more.
Yeah, so unless they fix that, this feature is of no use to me.
Blimey. That's a terrifying feature to have, though, or a problem to have.
Feature. I like that. Do you want to kill your hard drive? Well, use the PS5. That is shocking, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I was reading some of the other things there. You can now mute people in chat. Great.
Yes.
You can organise your library better of games. Like, sweet.
The stuff that you can hide in your library, so things like demos or whatever that you don't really want to see filtered into your main library, you can hide them now. So that's
this is once again the comparison between Xbox and PlayStation is brilliant here. People were like, "Oh, Xbox is just the same. It's not changed it at all." Yeah, but it works.
Yeah, and it's got all this stuff that they're now adding in to PS5.
It's like The Sims. Whenever a new Sims game would come out from EA, it would move it back to like the previous base version of the previous game for functionality, and then you had to buy all the DLC again over the next 3 years to make it actually operate at the same point as where the previous game finished. This is what this sounds like. It's like, oh yeah, well, it's lovely, it's now in 4K, it's beautiful looking, however functionality is going to take 2 years to get back to where it was on PS4. It's like, that's mad.
Oh, get ready for more of that when the next WWE game comes out, Ben.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, because whenever the generational shift in sports games does it a lot as well. They will always pull it back to the bare minimum and then slowly build it back to where it was. Yes. Yeah. WWE, F1, FIFA, they all do that. They've all done it over the years. So crazy. So that's why Xbox just were like, yeah, it's the same. It's the same that you've used on everything else, and it all just works. And while it's less exciting, can't really fault them for that. Right, that takes us to the end of the news. I think it's time that we got into Game Pass Club. Can somebody tell me the name of the developer, by the way? Is it Thunder Lotus?
2 seconds. Let me consult my extensive mental library of Google.
It's something Lotus. I think you're right.
Thunder Lotus Games is the publisher. The developers are Thunder Lotus Games.
What a pull. What a pull. I just remember developer names for some reasons.
Very cool developer name.
It's cool.
It is Thunder Lotus.
Yeah. So Spiritfarer, boys and girls. Kind of like the runner-up for Game of the Year pretty much everywhere last year because Hades beat everybody fairly. But this Spiritfarer was very well regarded by most outlets, including this one. In Game Pass, I really want to hear from Rob first, and then Richard, because this is the antithesis of a Rob game, and I'd love to know how much he stuck with it, what he thought of it, how he got into it.
Look over that. No, you are quite right. It is not hugely a Rob game. It was interesting. The aesthetic and the style are beautiful. Like the music in this game, the art design in this game, it's worth installing and playing just for the first little bit alone for that. Whilst Arthur rustles around in a box the one time I need to actually talk. It's a lovely game. I see why people enjoy it. I see why people like it, but it did not grab me. But that was to be expected. It's one of these games I respect for its contribution and its value and its style, but it's just not a game that I'm going to persevere through.
It's quite pedestrian, isn't it? It feels slow.
It bothered me that you couldn't speed up the transition between the islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're meant to be doing stuff while you sail. Like that's when you're doing your farming, and that's when you're talking to your passengers, and when you're doing some cooking and do a little fishing, and that's meant to give you that kind of downtime so you can do that.
At the start of the game, where those features aren't unlocked yet, you're just sat there.
Oh, even when you've got them, though. So the activities that you do, you might be cooking, and you'll put something in the oven, and you'll literally wait for a timer to go around.
Yeah, but then you could do something else. Do go water your plants, or you've gone through a lightning storm, catch some lightning in bottles, and do all of that. There's loads going on.
Yeah, but I think that the common theme in what you do is that you're not actively doing something. You're triggering a mechanism and waiting for it to finish. And you might be able to go off and trigger another mechanism and wait for that to finish while another one has started. But you are perpetually waiting for things to cycle through.
So
it's a particularly active game.
It's kind of like a less stressful Animal Crossing, is the way I sort of saw it. I mean, because it's like it's got that management light vibe to it, whereas Animal Crossing is a bit more intensive in that you've always got so many things you could be doing. This is much more manageable mentally, so you're sort of less taxing. But I think, it's a very intentional tone. It's definitely meant to be slower. So the question for me and you guys is, how far into it? I mean, Rob, I don't think you did, but and that's fair enough. But no, this isn't a review, so nobody's like, oh, you didn't beat the game. So if you bounce off the game, you bounce off the game. But it's like, how far did you get into the emotional core of the game, Richard?
Not too far. I'm only like an hour or 90 minutes in, really. And I think what it misses is the opportunity to give you early on a glimpse of what the game cycle is, because it's about you're replacing Charon, the ferryman who's supposed to ferry the dead into the afterlife. But at no point have I had a sniff of getting near to that goal for any of the spirits that I found in the game. A lot of it is just meeting them, finding out what their deal is, how you can help them, whether it's making them a cup of coffee or finding some lost artifact that they really miss. Some of that is it's nice to get the ball rolling in terms of, I can go to that island and get that ingredient for that person, that's going to help them out, and you start to build up a network of different places that you can go and start how you're going to balance all of these different jobs and roles. But the end goal is still way off in sight, and you can't really understand what you're working towards. So I would have preferred some sort of early quest to say, this guy is ready to go into the afterlife, just take him and see what happens. And then you know what you're working towards with the other characters.
I think I do see where you're coming from. It could have done with being front loaded a little bit. But the problem there is that you obviously need time to grow these connections to these characters. You need time to get to know them and know your character and understand the world and connect with the spirits that are the passengers on your ferry. Otherwise, if you just take a guy, you haven't passed through, you don't care, because it doesn't have any kind of emotional resonance because you've not built that connection with them. I mean, the animation and the art in this game is truly one of the most beautiful games. It's just so chill and yet evocative. And I loved. I'm not a big fan of anthropomorphized animals characters. I find it really rote and really bloody boring. And because I'm anti Disney and I don't like 3D bloody action platformers like Richard. So none of that stuff normally works for me. But something about the way they're presented in this and the fact that the animals that they are very intentional and have, it's a very specific reason they look the way they do in connection to their characters and then their connection to you as the character. I also, oh my god, how amazing Rob is your cat companion. I absolutely adore him.
One of the reasons I would mark the game as positive.
It's just the best. And you play it in 2-player and the other person plays as the cat. Did you know that? Yeah. Not on Xbox.
Amazing.
But locally, if you play co-op, the other person can be the cat. And it's just
I want to be that. I love the cat's contribution to soaring down trees. Did you see that?
Oh, it's so just
the cat just hangs on the other side of the
How about when he's in the water with you and he's like on a ball and he's like keeping balance on the ball and like moving along
the water.
I just love it, and there's so many little details to the animation that just sell emotions, sell the world, the realism, just give that little bit of character to every interaction, to every moment. I think there's a really nice underlying mystery because it's like you don't really know why you're there, what this world is, how it works. So you're finding out at the same pace as the player, which works really well. Once you do start getting, I haven't finished this, but I've got far enough to see, oh my god, this will just destroy me at the end. This is going to destroy me, like from an emotional point of view. Like it is going to be harrowing. But yes, it could have done with a bit of a sort of structural pacing element. I think the problem is it's definitely worth sticking with it because it is so well crafted. I do feel like it was like an idea of a story, an idea of a world first, and then now we need to put some game in there. And it's like, let's do farming and stuff, and let's but what, farming crop. It just feels odd that I have this boat with a farm on it and that I'm like putting plants down and watering them and I'm doing cooking stuff and like timings, and that feels like it's another game to the actual Spiritfaring, interacting with those characters, taking them through their journeys, sending them on and stuff, and that feels kind of disconnected to the core of the game, which
this is where I was coming from. It feels like a distraction from the bits that you want to see when you hear a game called Spiritfarer and there isn't much faring of spirits to be done. It's mostly, like you say, menial tasks and building things on the boat. It's
like playing God of War and Kratos as a pacifist.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it falls into that role later on, but it's taken a long time to get there. But you're right, in terms of the aesthetics, it's very beautiful to look at. It's almost it's like a Miyazaki movie, isn't it? Like Spirited Away or something, that sort of style.
A simple fix for me would have been a hammock that you can pass the journey in optionally, because especially at the start,
you can do that.
Nope.
You can do that, can't you?
Nope, I looked.
You can go to bed.
You can go to bed.
You can only go to bed once you've been told you can.
Yeah, it's at night, though, isn't it?
Several journeys in.
Oh.
Yeah, so when you start off, you just have to go, oh, well, there's nothing to do. I've just got to
But I think, once again, though, Rob, when you're dealing with a game and it's about the journey and it's about loss and it's about...
True, but there's a lot of dead time that I'm just standing on the prow of the boat going, how far's the progress bar? Halfway.
That's your min-max brain that you need to turn off. I get it. I have it too sometimes when you play games, especially if you've been playing like a loot shoot and you're looking to always optimize your run and optimize what you're doing. This is about sitting and just being there.
Yeah, but it's different when there's stuff to do.
But that's the point. It's very intentionally there isn't.
To set off, it's like, okay, that's fine. We've got to get the food, make sure this spirit's looked after, make sure I've harvested crops, etc. I've done a bit of fishing, cool. But to the start of it, there's just okay, I'm just going to sit here now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly this. I suppose the closest cipher to what I would want to see from the journey aspect of it is something along the lines of Two Sails. Do you remember that game?
Two Sails. No.
Twin Sails. Was it called Twin Sails?
Oh, Far Sales.
Far Sails. That's it.
Oh
Sorry.
man, I loved Far Sales. That I got you onto that, didn't I? Because I reviewed it and then and then you got that game is impeccable. Yes.
But do you know what I mean? So that feeling that the ship that you're on is almost another character.
Yeah.
You don't really get that from this. It's just a resource location.
Yeah, but that very much was a type of character, and I love how they deal with that and the vehicle. You get to know it, and when the thing happens at the end, it really has an emotional impact. However, this is about the companions. This isn't about the vessel. The vessel is a means to an end, but it's about the people on it with you. There's so many horrible kind of like metaphorical bumper sticker sayings you could say, isn't there? It's about the people that you meet along the way. It's not. That's what life's all about.
Like you were
and
saying,
the
it's gameplay
true.
aspects. You're right, but like you were saying, the gameplay aspects of it feel sort of artificially crafted around that concept.
Yeah.
Rather than then find a real gameplay hook to it.
I could almost imagine, right, a year into development, they've got this thing, and you just sit on the boat and you talk to the people, and they're like, guys, there's not enough to do. We need to bring something more to this, otherwise people are going to be bored. And it's like, I feel like I could be completely wrong, right? The
Todd in the corner looks up from Farmville and goes, guys, I've got an idea.
Or Stardew Valley. I mean, this is talking about the art styles as well. Like, this is Stardew Valley, isn't it? I mean, it's like, but maybe, and I think it's almost a shame, because if you just relied on the narrative and the characters, you'd have had something a bit more in keeping. I love a good walking simulator, so something like Firewatch, or Oxen Free, like we were talking about earlier, or Gone Home, or something. A game doesn't always need to have lots to do to be awesome. It might for Rob, because they're just not his types of games. No, not a dig. You are a different type of gamer, right? We're all different types of gamers. We all like certain types of games more than others, so it's fair enough. But
I prefer being able to make progress.
You like to see the numbers go up.
Numbers going up, yeah.
No, I don't know how to phrase this, so we'll probably come back to this at some point.
I was not trying to have a dig at you. I'm just saying different people for different games.
Yeah.
Some people hate walking simulators. Because I come from a position of loving a good film, and it could be a tiny two-hander. A game doesn't have to be super interactive to be worthwhile to me. Like, I can really enjoy a very minimal experience if it's got a good story and good characters. And therefore, this feels like they had that, and we're like, actually, we need to bolt in some more stuff. The game is awesome. It is on Game Pass. This is 100% check it out if you have Game Pass. Check it out, because you might find yourself completely surprised by this experience, because it is a really interesting combination of things that you'd not seen before. And the art alone is and the music, we haven't even mentioned the music. The music's really beautiful as well, and it really adds. Yeah. Did you guys both try Catching Lightning, by the way?
The music is slightly stolen from, what's that game? Celeste. It's very evocative of Celeste.
Yeah, I didn't love Celeste, though. I thought Celeste, it was cool what they tried to do with matching up the narrative and the setting in that game with that kind of gameplay. Yeah. It didn't quite work for me in that sort of story, in that sort of punishing 2D platforming environment. I didn't connect with it in the way I hoped. But
though, I mean, the weird thing here is that they've tried to marry a narrative game. It's heavily focused on the characterization, building those relationships. But they've married it to a game form that works against pace and storytelling. It's very much about repetition, farming, and elongating the experience rather than snappily getting to the core of a story. So it's very odd. By the way, we still got the name of that game wrong. It's Far Lone Sales.
Sales. We apologise. That was one of those experiences where I actually reached out to the developer and I emailed them and went, look, beyond just here's my review, but well done. Like, this is so cool what you've made here.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I don't know if that's on Game Pass or not, but I
don't think it is.
It's not a super expensive little game, but...
So in my attempt to find out whether the Celeste music and Spiritfarer music were composed by the same person, I've navigated to the Wikipedia page, and Ben, you are right, this game will break you. Because I've scanned the synopsis of what happened.
I've heard things, but you can tell.
You are going to be ruined.
Yeah, you can tell where it's going.
You're going to love it.
Yeah, well worth checking out. I'm gonna we're gonna try and pick next 2 weeks, right? I have some suggestions. From the new additions to Game Pass that have all piqued my interest, but I have not checked out yet. So, Genesis Noir, Narita Boy, Zombie Army 4, Dead War, or Rain on Your Parade.
Zombie Army 4, Dead War.
Well, I knew you'd go for that one.
I'm nothing if not predictable.
Narita Boy looks really interesting, though. You should check out the look of Narita Boy. And Genesis Noir looks good, too. But I think Narita Boy has got it's actiony, but also really interesting 80s platformy vibe. That might tick the box for all of us.
I've played about 20 minutes of it, and I would play more.
Have a little look at Narita Boy. But yeah, Zombie Army 4 Dead War is an easy one. There's also co-op, so we could all play that together. And then Rain on Your Parade, you play as a cloud that's trying to rain on people, which sounds adorable.
I think that depends how my next week at work goes, whether I want to play the game where I rain on everyone's parade. Depends how busy everything is and how much of a good mood I'm in.
Have you looked at Narita Boy?
Just looking at Genesis Noir Narita Boy.
While you look at that. Yeah, I think Spiritfarer is well worth checking out by Thunder Lotus. Very cool. Give it a go.
Without a doubt, I'd recommend it. To anyone who likes Animal Crossing, that sort of game, you will enjoy it. And, your heart will break. But that's why you play those sorts of games. So
are we going to pick a game? Can we pick Narita Boy?
I'd be happy with that.
Go on.
I'll give it a go.
It's on PC Game Pass as well, if that helps. I know because you have both the options, Richard. So that might, Rob. So that might be easier. But yeah, Narita Boy, 2 weeks time. Some kind of 2D stylized action platformy thing. Looks cool from the videos I've seen. Have not played it yet at all. Right then. Let's move on to the games we've been playing, of which there are not many. I want to say I've finished Outriders, and obviously you can't finish a game like that, but I've reached my end. I'm max level. Well, I'm in end game expeditions. I have 920 of the available 1,000 gamer score. I am fine with that. So I think after about 50 hours, I've had my worth of that. The Game Pass game, I'm good. I'm going to keep an eye on developments. I'm going to keep an eye on if there's new content. I will come back if there is. But
I was just going to ask if there's post-game content, because People Can Fly, I think they said they're open to the idea, but they don't know what sort of audience would be there for it. So I was going to ask if you would ever come back, or are you just, nope, I've had my fill, it can go over there now.
Absolutely, I'd come back. No, I'd absolutely come back. Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of problems with it. One of the stories is now that there has been a build found for Devastators focusing on melee, which I absolutely detest in that game. But that makes them viable in the end game, supposedly in the expedition modes. Great, I'm glad there's something for my boys to do, but at the same time, I'm pretty much spent. I don't know how are you feeling about it, Rob. You're at the same place.
I haven't gone back to it recently, purely because I've not had the time to play a lot of games this week. Lots of out-of-hours work meetings, that sort of thing, which has sapped a lot of my time. So I've just not had the motivation to pick up a games console for several hours, which has been the issue that I've had. So I am open to going back to it. I think I'll probably try early next week to go back, because I've still got the hunts to finish off, the wanted missions to finish off, side missions, all of that stuff still to do. So I do want to go back and finish those off, and play a few more expeditions, see if I can do public matchmaking for a couple of the expeditions as well, maybe. So I've not actually played with other people who I'm not speaking to. Because I've played a fair few times with yourself, Ben. We've played the three of us. But I've never played with strangers online.
Be aware, public is where you risk your inventory wipe still. So
I'm going to stay in private. That's fine.
Yeah, so that's where that happens, is when the public matchmaking for expeditions. So
cool.
Yeah, and it's still an issue, even though they've been trying to fix it. And the worst thing is, it's like they said, oh yeah, if people would fix it, we'll try and get your gear back, but we can't even guarantee it'll be at the rolls you got. So it's like, all right. So imagine if you put in hundreds of hours farming the perfect stuff for your build, you have an inventory wipe and you won't even get it back. I'd just be like, fuck that game. See ya.
it does ache how badly their post-launch has gone. But not through much of a fault of their own, as far as I can see. A lot of the server issues that plagued them, that wasn't their fault, because it was Squeenix that was providing the servers, I think. So
yeah. I mean, the argument would be like it often is. You could have done more testing, couldn't you? But at the same time, testing is an expensive thing to do, and it's like it's very hard to do effective testing at the scale you can expect when you've done a launch. So
exactly, the 30 testers that, on an optimistic side, the 30 testers that you have testing various things, or the different tests you're running, may not encounter the issues that a million players will.
How about you, Richard? Have you played any more Outriders? Going to play any more?
Not since I played with you guys. I was enjoying it though. I mean, like Rob, I've only not gone back because I've had a really busy week with work and other stuff. So yeah, I'd be up for playing it again. But if you're out, I guess it's just me and Rob.
Well, if you get to endpoint, but and you can join us in the expeditions and farming stuff. But even that was hard for me and Rob, because we were doing that, but because his world tier is so much lower than mine, even in expeditions, the drops weren't worth anything for me. I was like, it was pointless for me. I wasn't getting any progress out of it. So
you may have hamstrung yourself, really, in Outriders.
Yeah, exactly.
I hammered the shit out of that. I took every exploit possible.
No.
So
halfway through selfish, you were full level.
Yeah, about halfway to 2/3 of the way.
By just playing for yourself, you ruined it for everybody.
But you found a way to break it with the farms, which is fine. That's farming lots of gear. But then when you are playing people who have not done that, nothing's worth it.
Well, why weren't you doing it?
Because I was doing other things with my life.
Why weren't you doing it? What? I mean, why not? Just do it, Rob. Just do it. It's too late now. You've missed out.
Oh, well, I'll carry on playing myself. We've got another friend from work who's still now starting to go through it. I've got a friend myself who is also a listener to Experience Kills, who is playing it as well, so I may join in with him. So, I have not ruined it for myself. It's definitely a game I'm not deleting anytime soon.
Okay, cool. Richard, you're going to give us the final ever Gears Pop update. Is that right?
You want me to mention it, do you?
Sure.
Just behind the curtain, Ben has
Nostalgia.
forbidden me from talking about Gears Pop for so long, even though it's the one game I play every single day for the past 18 months.
Too long.
I'm always on Gears Pop.
Too long.
So I'm probably one of the only ones who is, because they're closing the game down in about a week's time. And this has been a while coming. So the last time I gave the game any money, they immediately said, "Oh, hang on, have that back, because the game's not lasting much longer."
It'd be wrong to take this.
I love that. So, you want to pay for this? No, please don't. Please don't. We would feel bad.
That's funny.
So that was nice of them. But yeah, the game, after about 6 months' notice, the game finally closes later in April. I think we've got about 10 days left. And as a consequence, there were concerns that people couldn't get their final achievements, because this game was built to last, 3 years or something. So I was way off the maximum level and couldn't get those pesky final achievements. But they've boosted all the rewards. Anyone that has played Gears Pop and wants to go back on for some easy achievements now, it's much easier.
So could I just download this and max gamer score it with very little effort?
I don't think you can max gamer score it, because a lot of it is down to playing a certain number of matches, but getting to higher levels is much easier now. If you're starting from scratch, I think you'd struggle still, but you could make a dent in it at least. And it's quite fun to have almost maxed out everything in the game now and feel super powerful. So yeah, nice way to send the game off. Sad to see it go, but I suppose it's good for my life,
your mental
in general,
health.
to get rid of it. Yeah.
There are several other digital games based on mobiles that I can probably fill your life with if you're interested.
Don't enable him.
Not yet.
Rob, we don't need that. We don't need.
Richard, have a look at Marvel Strike Force.
And got me on that. As far as downloading, I've still not played
that
it
before.
Yeah.
I think my plan once that's gone is to spend more time playing xCloud stuff, because I've got my Razer Kishi controller, which I haven't used for a little while.
I legitimately thought you were going to say spend more time with my family.
So did I. I was like, I'll see my wife again.
Oh, that as well. But
by the way, Rob,
Gamepass doesn't get a look in.
By the way, Rob, he's not interested in just any mobile game. The reason he played that one is because it's achievements, mate. He won't play. I'm sure he won't play a mobile game that doesn't give him Microsoft achievements.
Strikeforce has achievements, just in its own set, not Microsoft.
It's got to be his game score.
It's got to be trophies or Xbox achievements.
That's all he cares about. Okay. That's all he cares about.
No. This is just if you like daily check-ins into games and daily tasks, Strikeforce is really good. I've got James on it. I've got him back into it.
You're a monster. Let me touch on one final game here. It just came out in Games with Gold in the last few days, or literally last day or two. And it's the FIA European Truck Racing Championship game. Now, I'm a big fan of racing games. I love racing games. And especially when I saw FIA, which is the governing body of sports such as F1, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be serious. And I was right. This is a very, very serious game. It's as dry as all hell, and I tell you what, trying to get those trucks around, racetracks like Laguna Seca, is something else, because, they're big trucks, and they handle very poorly. So, I tell you what, Rob was like, oh, would I be interested in this? Like, no. This is a sim-heavy racing game that punishes you for the slightest mistake.
Beating me with the newspaper.
There is no rewind function. You fuck up, you restart the race. You fuck up, you restart the race. You fuck up, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until you get it right. I honestly, even before I could start the career mode, I had to get my license. And to get my license, I had to do, 25 challenges, and each one of them was braking and cornering and cooling my brakes with air with water jets and managing my heat and managing my brake stuff and all of that. And I was like, Jesus effing Christ, that was just so I could start the career. And it was that was one of the most involved. It took me about an hour, this tutorial, basically to do before I could even start racing. I did, however, then proceed to qualify in first and win my first race, which gave me, it was so funny, I came first, and then my phone was sat next to me, and just went, brr, 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 as all the achievements started coming in, and I hit 10 achievements in the first 60 to 90 minutes of playing. So
Richard is now queuing up the download.
Yeah. But it's quite torturous.
Literally am.
Yeah, it looks nice enough. The one thing I didn't like, it's not got great rumble feedback, so it's you've got this giant truck right on the track, and you're braking and screeching your way through these corners, and all I'm getting is a little bit of vibration when I'm shifting gears. You get no feedback on the braking or anything, and it was just really weird. I'm driving basically a boat around a racetrack, and I don't feel anything in the controller, which is very peculiar. I have to check those settings and see if I can bump that up or something, but it was really strange. But I mean,
for racing sim fans, is it compulsive enough to keep going on? Is that something that's grabbing you, this game? Or
I mean, look, if you're one of the European Racing Championship is a real thing, right? This is a real sport that really happens. And I can imagine watching giant trucks racing around a track at 150 miles an hour must be pretty exciting. I've never seen it myself, but I can imagine it'd be exciting. This game, like any sports sim of any sport, will be dependent on your interest in said sport, right? If you're into truck racing, this, I think, is probably a good representation of it. If, however, you just like racing games, like me, it's going to be quite the challenge. I've already uninstalled it, basically. So, I just didn't feel the need to progress. I felt like I got everything out of it by doing that first race weekend, getting that first pole, getting that first win. I'm like, all right, I see what this game is.
90 achievements. Done.
Yeah. It was good. It was quite surprising. My leg was just like, it was good. But yeah.
The achievements came in.
Games with Gold, man. It's there. Might as well try it if you're interested in racing games, but I probably wouldn't recommend it unless you were into the sport.
Have you tried Hardcore Uprising yet? Because that's on Games with Gold as of yesterday, isn't it?
So that was the one. I remember when we talked about it, we were like, I think it's related to Contra in some way.
The Contra game.
Yeah. No, I haven't yet. No, is it good?
I don't know. I haven't tried it. But it's right on my because Contra is Gunstar Heroes territory, isn't it? Gunstar Heroes was developed by the original Contra team. So if it's like that, I will be playing that. I'm downloading it right now.
I wonder if it has a different style, Contra to what we're expecting.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end. I'm just cancelling.
Patience with me.
Episode 26 has been the final episode of Experience Kills. Thank you for coming on this journey, but I can't work with this man anymore. He's a monster.
Monday.
Goddamn monster. Puntastic monster. But yeah, that's the end of another episode of Experience Kills. In time I can watch Quali. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. We had some people watching live. That's been lovely having you on board. We've really enjoyed having a live audience. Thank you very much for joining. This has been another episode of Experience Kills. You can find us at Experience Kills on Twitter. You can find me at DIYE. You can find Richard at Colonel Red, and you can find Rob at Homeless Mr. Gibbs. So that's where we're all at. You can obviously give us a like and subscribe on the YouTube video here. We really appreciate that. Turn on the notifications as well. We're approaching 1,100 subscribers at the moment, which is a lovely round number, which we're very nearly at. So a couple more on there would be great. And also, if you can't find the time to watch us live or to check out a 90-minute video on YouTube, which I'd understand, we can also be found basically anywhere a podcast can be found. And if you find somewhere you can find podcasts and we're not there, you let me know and I will make sure we go there. That is my promise to you. So until next time, episode 27, in which we might have a special guest joining us, which will be quite exciting. Until next time, that's been another episode of Experience Kills. Adios.
Adios.
Farewell.